Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics, back with Pieceful Patchwork. This time it's for November. We all know it's full fall at that point as we welcome Thanksgiving here in the United States. The beautiful fall colors, even they're starting to fall as we now head into December. But this is a celebration of what we get to see here in beautiful North Idaho. Still beautiful leaf colors, the acorns, there are so many acorns. Our squirrels are everywhere. Does that mean it's going to be a hard winter? I don't know if there's any truth to that, but they're very busy. And so our wall hanging is made with just beautiful colors from the Autumn Breeze collection by Nancy Halverson. We recently actually introduced a quilt that she made that had owls and leaves and amazing colors. So you can see what's possible with these incredible fabrics, and that's why I was inspired to use them for our project, because they work beautifully. So we have two blocks. We have our leaf, we have our acorn, just like we've been doing. We make two of each, and we have our sashing, outer border binding, a backing. We have it displayed on our act felt hanger. We have our perfect spot, wherever that might be in your home, where you can change that out each month. All of the projects are the same size, and that's why we did that. We know once you find your favorite thing and want a favorite location and want to switch that out each month, you don't want the size of the project varying, right? It might not fit. That's why they're all the same. So we hope you're enjoying this series where we're really dialing in and focusing on patchwork. Kits are the way to go. That's a no-brainer, right? You don't have to be the designer. We can do that for you. And you know that you'll be getting these exact fabrics as well as a well-tested full color pattern. I love that, right? You know, we've already done the checking of that when we made not only the quilt, but we made it again for video preparation. We've really checked this. So as with all patchwork, there is kind of that setup, right, that we need for precise patchwork that actually begins before we even make our first cut. Some nice sizing, whatever your favorite sizing is, get that fabric sprayed, pressed out beautifully flat. And if I'm doing patchwork, I'm like, okay, how long has it been since I've tested how sharp my rotary blade is? Maybe I've been doing applique and I haven't touched my rotary cutter in a while. So maybe make some test cuts. If it's dull, change the blade. You're going to be so happy you did. That's one of the most foundational things to good patchwork is accurate cuts, of course. If you need to pick up any rulers, be sure to do that. The other thing, our go-to kit is, for me, I need that seam guide. I'm not going to sew with a scant quarter, which is what the seam guide setter is, but I do need that assistance to keep me true to that 1/4 inch, and I use that all the time on my machine. So if you just want some refills, you can always pick that up. Diagonal seam tape's great if you want that on the machine, and patchwork pins, and of course good needles. Those are the ingredients. Now we'll go ahead and start off focusing on our leaf block, and right away, one of the things you're like, I'm so glad I buy the kit from Shabby Fabrics, because the very first piece is actually an applique shape. Notice how our stem doesn't go all the way into the corner. So our very first thing that we will do inside your kit, you'll have two of these stems. Just give a good press. We've even tapered that edge for you so that you simply place this in that corner. It has no other place to be. And you're going to iron that down. With a brown coordinating thread set, we just did a cute little blanket stitch. You can see that on the back to secure that. You're going to make two of those. You can go ahead and set those aside as we work on the other portions of our leaf block. And I'll just open up the pattern so when you do get your kit and you have your pattern, we can follow along together. That's always helpful. And it helps me also make sure I haven't missed any steps. The very first thing we just talked about was the stem. If you are just picking up the pattern, this will be you. You'll need to trace that and cut that twice, maybe with some heat and bond light. You'll be tracing that, putting that on the back of whatever fabric you're using. But again, if you got the kit, we've already done that for you. Stitch and flip. If you've been watching the series, you know so much about stitch and flip, right? Where we have our larger rectangle, maybe it's a square. We draw the line, place that in the corner, sew on the line, trim the excess, flip to the outside. There's so much of the stitch and flip, so you'll be hearing me say that a lot today as well. So right away, as we move down into our pattern, we have our letters A and our letters B. A reminder that the arrow is telling you which direction to press the seam to. So when we place these right sides together, sewing with our good 1/4 inch, and again for me, I need my seam guide to really dial that in. Once that's done, we're going to be pressing toward our letter A. Right away, we have a stitch and flip. That's our letter C. So the process of drawing that line on the back is super simple. I like to grab a friction pen, that's a temporary marking tool, grab any straight edge and simply draw from corner to corner, right? Easy peasy. So we had already did our magic sewing, pressing to the cream. We placed this in the corner, just like that, and sew directly on the line. Now, our pattern shows you to trim and then press to the outside. I actually like to do just the opposite. Before I do any trimming, I do like to press to the outside, and notice how that's my footprint, and when I press to the outside, my block footprint is the same. If that changes and gets a little askew, that's because perhaps you didn't draw the line straight, sew straight, or maybe it just got a little bit of wonky when you went to the sewing machine. Maybe you forgot to pin, whatever that is. But once you're happy with what you're seeing, as I'm very happy with that, I'm just going to grab my straight edge. I have my dash line and trim. This is the stitch and flip process we're talking about right here. There's so much of that. So right now, we're at this portion. You can see for letter D, once again, here this is, there, sew, and in this instance, what's different about this one is notice how we're pressing toward the red. So let me show you that process. Initially, I press to away from the red, only initially. Once I'm happy and I'm confirmed, yep, that's what I was hoping to see, I trim my excess fabric away, and we all know we need to do that. We do not want to keep that bulk inside of our quilt block or it's going to end up lopsided. But remember how this arrow is pointing toward the red. How do I do that? Easy. Flip the block over, and I'm now going to press to the red. The process of doing this and the reason we're doing this is going to give us interlocking seams, which if you've been watching again, you know that's very important. That here, when we place these right side together, because this is pressed toward the red and this is pressed toward the cream, kind of light tan, I have a beautiful lock there. If I had kept the press toward this direction, look how I would have 2 layers of fabric here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2 layers of fabric, 6 layers of fabric. Bump, right? This is why we want to equalize the amount of volume, especially at the confluence of a seam, to create balance and a lock. This is why our pressing instructions are something you want to watch carefully, because it's easy to make assumptions. We're so used to just pressing away, pressing away, pressing away, not used to pressing back toward that color. But this has been so carefully thought out for you, and this is why you buy Shabby Fabrics patterns and kits, right? Because we want your quilt to look just as beautiful as ours, and if you follow these instructions, they will. It will. And notions matter. Notions matter. Good pinning, good pressing, good cutting, all of it. All of it starts to add up. It's like in cooking, right? It all starts with good ingredients and a good process. So we have sewn that together. Again, we had done our pressing. We placed them right side together. And here, remember how I said we want to balance. We want to have the equal amount of left as on the right as much as we can. For that reason, notice we're splitting that, because if I had my seam going this way, I'm lopsided, I'm heavy on this side. Here, I'm heavy on that side. Now, what I would do, and if you have any problem opening a seam, a presser bar, the Gypsy presser bar is a great option, or just kind of get your fingers in there, work it through. And any seams that don't want to lay flat like this, because there's a lot of bulk happening, I let my iron sit there for a few seconds longer. I want this good and flat. If you have a clapper or a presser bar, I would put that on that seam as you work on other parts of the block. This is what clappers are all about, as well as presser bars. So this portion is already done. You can see here, this is easy peasy, right? I'm gonna let that just sit there. So easy. We have our red, we have our cream, and we have our bottom portion B. Now I want to point out here that you have a directional fabric in the red stripe. So looking at our block here, we know that we could absolutely turn this any direction we want because it's a square. If you are sensitive to fabric traveling either vertically or horizontally, just be mindful of that as you begin to put this together. Now we do like to have ours vertically, so I'm going to have this up and down, placing this right side together, pressing to the right, adding the bottom portion and pressing down toward B. Easy peasy, nothing too complicated with that, right? Once we've done that, now comes our sew and flip again. We have our piece here, C, another piece here, C, that we've sewn. And now we're going to press, and notice they're pressing away. Good, we like that. Pressing toward this direction, and this will press toward this direction. That's very natural to us. We already know we're going to lift this up, sew and trim, sew and trim. We don't need to do that over and over. You understand that's where this is going. So it just helps us kind of be able to keep moving along. So for now, let's imagine we've trimmed the bulk away, trimmed the bulk away. We can see already how our block is quickly developing. It's quickly growing. Right side together, 1/4 inch. Makes sense. We're going to distribute the bulk evenly by having an open seam. That makes sense. And that's our upper portion of our block here. It looks like we already did that sewing. So let me just press that so we have an assembled unit. Again, there's a lot going on here. This doesn't like to open up. I would just leave the iron there for a little bit longer. Clean that up over there as we continue on with our block. And notice we have labels. You have a lot of pieces with patchwork, and labels help us stay organized. So this is the upper portion of our block so far. As we move on to the lower portion, look how beautiful this fabric is. Sometimes I have to just pause. When I see these fabrics, especially certain manufacturers, in fact most, I don't get to see live fabric. It's paper. We're making a lot of purchasing decisions on paper. When we get to actually feel the fabric and see the beauty, I just look at this like, I don't know, it feels like wine that I've seen in Italy. It's just this incredible, beautiful color. I love that it just captures so many of the colors of fall, all in one amazing fabric. And also, there's a surprise coming up, announcement about maybe I might be doing some design work with another company to bring some fabric to life. More on that later, just a little bit of a hint. Okay, just like we've been doing, drawing a line corner to corner, sitting here in these corners, sew and flip, no big surprise there. And we simply went ahead in time and we just sewed that to the bottom. So let me just, because that's not a difficult step to understand. When there's an unusual technique, and there is one actually coming up in the next block, this is what I'm going to slow down and really focus on that, because this is very intuitive, right? It may be fun to watch, but it's intuitive. There's no aha moment because there's nothing difficult at this point, but there will be on the next block, and I do want to focus on that. So I'm going to get through this one as efficiently as we can. So this is our block so far. Let's flip our page. Here we go again with some simple shapes. We have our red, our kind of light tan. I've got stickers everywhere, and this is on the side. Make sure everything looks right, obviously pressing per the instruction. And then we're gonna do looks like we've got a sew and flip on the opposite corners there. And we've even already trimmed this one. Press to cream, press to red. Ah, there's something unique here. Let's slow down and focus on that one. We're so used to just pressing to the outside, but there must be a reason, because we would never have you press back toward the red if it didn't involve interlocking seam. That's the only reason we'd ever have you do that. For here, we're going to press to the cream. For here, I press here initially, flip it over, and then I'll go repress that. And because it doesn't want to do that, I'm going to leave the iron there for just a little bit longer, and the fabric can take that. So here is where we are with this one. Now, remember that I said we're never going to have you press the seam back on top of itself instead of pressing away unless there was a reason. We will certainly be adding that portion that we had already stitched down here with our right side together, pressing, and notice we're pressing toward this direction. You can see that later on, okay, we've already sewn that. Let me just move that out of the way. You can see when we press to the red, that's because when we place these right side together, you already know what I'm going to say. This seam is going, oh, it's because I didn't trim. Let me trim that away. I want you to see this seam down there. I was trying to save us some time. Now I'm blocking your view. Let me trim that away. Okay. You can see this seam's going here, this seam's going here. Why is that important? And if you have anything extra like this, maybe it wasn't completely square. In this instance, if I need to square that up just a touch, this is real life quilting happening right now. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Looks perfect, right? All good. Remember, we have a 1/4 inch seam coming in when we sew all of this. This will all be just perfect. Right side together. This is where you're going to pin first, right there. As a new quilter, I just pinned left to right and prayed, not realizing, hey, those points that are very important, you want to go ahead and pin those first, right? And there's really nothing else here except down at the bottom. I'm going to pin there because we need that to work out. We need this to work out and pin everything in between. So your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then that final seam here is pressed open. You know what the most important part? Cutting the pieces to the right size. This is very understandable. Really just a bunch of sew and flip and pressing. That's it. That's all there is to making your beautiful leaf block. You'll be making 2 of those. Let me get this cleaned up. This other block is also quite intuitive, although there's other things that I want to talk about, and there's a trimming portion that I want to emphasize. So stay with me as we do our acorn block next. So for our acorn block, we start with our upper portion here. Our pieces are labeled A, B, and we have 2 C's right here. We've, of course, joined this top to bottom and then added the sides, and this is how we've pressed that. So we have our upper portion of our acorn. Moving on to our next portion, you're like, sew and flip. Jen, we just talked about this. We sure did. It's a lot more sew and flip, and I love that. This fabric has a really cool texture to it. Isn't that a really neat addition here? I've said it before, but one of my favorite parts about what I get to do here is pick the fabrics. I'm just smiling the whole time. You know what my hardest decision is? Especially when there's multiple, it's like, okay, what do I commit to? because sometimes I'm drawn to maybe multiple collections. My hardest part sometimes deciding. All right, you know what to do. On the back side, draw the line, sew and flip. We place that in our corners. Of course, you know all that. We've been over that so many times, and pressing to the outside. After we do that, we just have the letter F on the ends. So we've already done our sew and flip here. Let me just move that out of the way. We did our sew and flip here. We added the letter F, pressing to the outside. Let me just do that real quick. And that makes sense. There's more seams coming together. Our seam wants to press to the outside, and we can comply with that. Every now and again, you saw that in the previous block, we pressed back onto itself. It didn't want to do that, but we forced that to happen because we got an interlocking seam out of it. But when you're not going for an interlocking seam, I like to go where the seam wants to go naturally. So we have accomplished this part so far. So we're kind of building our block as we go. This is our upper portion here. As we continue on now, actually we've already sewn that together, haven't we? Kind of did our magic sewing. This is this portion joined. Okay, our team did such a great job, and I'm going to press that upward. Let's just do that since all the parts are now attached. Something I've gotten in the habit of doing, and I forget to talk about it, is warming the seam. I would say for about 15 years, I never did that. I just pressed the seam where it wanted to go and then brought the iron in. Why do I warm that up first? Because things that are warmer are more pliable. They go where you want them to go, right? It's kind of like a tortilla. When it's cold, it's stiff, but when you warm it, it's pliable. You can turn it into a burrito, right? It makes sense that when we warm seams or warm anything, it's more likely to move in the direction we desire. So that's just something that sometimes I forget to mention, especially for new quilters. Like, why does she do that? That's why I do it. So we have our upper portion assembled right now, and then just a reminder, our arrows are telling us the direction in which we press, and we strongly recommend you follow those pressing instructions. They've been carefully thought out. For our letter H, this is not different. It's a sew and flip. It's just a smaller area, right? We already know what we're going to be doing, drawing our line, placing that down here and in the corners, sewing, and notice we're pressing to the outside there. Press that and trim. Let me get that done so we can just keep adding on. These are I'm so glad they put this cute little ruler on set. We actually had these made for us by Creative Grit. I think we have 7 colors, but I love that when you need just a straight edge, these are 2.5 by 6.5. Talk about perfect for your quilting friends. And that's kind of why we thought we brought them in a couple years ago around the holidays of like, we all know we have quilting friends. You're like, where do you get this person? Well, if you can secretly find out their favorite color, we probably have one that's pretty close. You can slip that into your friend's stocking for the holidays. And they're not just cute. We obviously use them. They're very utility. They're nice and small. When you just want to be working with smaller spaces, I don't want to be working with bigger rulers. It's nice to have a smaller ruler at that point. Okay, let me put that to the side. We have this shape here, and then on the sides, we have 2 additional letter H's. We're attaching those and pressing to the outside. So we have our step 7 is here. So this is going to be our upper row here that we're putting together. Let me just press that to our outside so we have that ready to go. So that's this upper portion for now. So this can go away. Let's talk about this portion right here. Once again, see this shape right here? So let's go back to this. Sew 2 acorn H for the acorn H fabrics, the sides of to this unit. Repeat to make a total of 2 of those. So again, because you're making 2 of these at the same time. When we get to this step here, this process that we did of making this comes in again. You see how that's the same block, just turned. So I want to point that out. This is this, but turned. And this is on the either side of your square. So you can see that is this. The only difference is now we're going to turn it sideways on both sides, and we have our square in the middle. And in this case, look where the seam just wants to go. It's begging to go toward the center. We're going to go, that's a good idea. We're going to do that. We agree. That's a good idea. We press toward our middle. So this is our block so far, and I can already see something. Later on, when we do assembly, look how we have our interlocking seams here and here. This is where you'll end up pinning, but not yet. We have to still have our bottom portion. So after you make another one of those, remember that 2-part? I think when I said it's 2 blocks, it's actually because it's the top row and the bottom row. That's the 2 they're talking about. So now we will press this open. We warm up that seam, and we're going to force that to be open. Again, if I had a presser bar, I would lay that over the presser bar that would want to open that seam. Otherwise, I just kind of fish through there with the tip of my iron or my fingers. Let the iron sit there. Do the same thing for the other seam. So this is our block right here. We're going to add sew and flip, no surprise, in the corners. Press to the outside, press to the outside. We know we're going to be trimming that. I better trim. Remember last time and last plot I didn't trim, and I got caught later on when I was trying to show you something. All we saw under there was our bulk. So let me just trim that since I'm here. So now we have this portion of our block. So let's see where we are. We're at step 10. This is the step. Stay with me. This is not the time to go get the drink and the cookie. Stay with me. We wanted our acorn to not be touching the sashing either down below or up above. For that reason, using the measurements, these are very standard measurements we gave you of these were nice, beautiful squares. But in order to have our acorn just a little bit shorter and not touching this, because we liked how it's kind of set inside the frame of that, this step here, I'm just going to turn it to the side so it'll make more sense here. Actually, I need to add letter K first before I do this next step. I got ahead of myself to the bottom. We trim the letter K and it's pressed to the bottom. Once I'm here, I'm measuring up from the bottom by 8 inches and I'm going to trim. Whatever's beyond 8 inches is leaving, right? So that's what I care about. Now I happen to have an 8.5 inch ruler here. If you don't have one, don't worry. I would line that up on your cutting mat. Count over till you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put your ruler down and trim. If you have an 8.5 inch ruler, this is a great time to go, okay, well, we know that's the 8. I can lay that down there beautifully, perfectly, right along that edge. And now I know I'm at 8 and I'm going to trim. So that is a step. When I said there was one step in this that I was like, something we don't normally do, but the effect of it is very unique. I love how it's set down from the top and up from the bottom, and this is why we did it. If we changed the measurements, there would have been some unusual sizes to cut these two. This was the easier way to achieve the desired look with doing just a little bit of trimming at this step. After that portion is done and you've trimmed that, now our letter L shapes come onto the left and right, and because we trimmed our block perfectly to 8, look how it just clicks like a puzzle, right right side together, of course, both sides pressing toward the outside. We've come this far. Let's do this. Let's press it. I want to see how beautiful this is. Let's take our pins away. And we know we're pressing to the outside, warming up our seam. This to the side. Look at that. Beautiful. It's beautiful. Look at the colors. The richness of these colors is just spectacular. And of course, right side together. And our final seam is pressing up toward the top of our acorn. Of course, you're making 2 of those. Then, once your blocks are done, just like we've been doing, same thing. Sashing, cornerstone, inner border, outer border. And as a reminder, we love putting our batting or fusible fleece, our backing, and then we do all of this beautiful quilting, and we'll kind of zero in on that. We even added some texture to our acorn here. The only kind of top machine applique that's needed, again, was that stem. If you wanted to, you could even wait till the end. You don't even have to machine applique that down at that step. You could wait till the end and be stitching that down all the way to the background, look really embossed. But however you choose to do the top quilting, we think this one is pretty cute. We already have the December project designed, and you are going to not want to miss this one. I say this I know I say this every time the new one comes out. It's my new favorite, but I'm already excited to show you that. Christmas is obviously one of our favorite times of the year. We hear that from our customers as well. So we would love to get your feedback on maybe what you think is coming next month and what you'd like to see actually in the new year. I can't even believe we're talking about 2026, but this is real. And we do these videos for you. We read every comment you write, good, bad, or indifferent. And if there's something you are hoping Shabby Fabrics will do that you've been waiting for, write it in the comments. We want to make 2026 the best year ever. So thank you for giving me a good part of your day to show you how to make the leaf and the acorn, how fun and easy they are. Head to the Shabby Fabrics website to pick up your kit, maybe that spool of brown thread and any notions you might need.